Today we are going to talk about how to consecrate a dagger with the help of King Paimon. So this is a video for intermediate practitioners. This is not for beginners. For this you have to have a certain degree of experience and a certain degree of bravery, and this is dangerous. So the goal of this ritual is to create a dagger which can serve as a protective tool as well as an implement in baneful magic. The technology in this ritual is to essentially bind the jinn to the dagger through a particular technique, which then allows the dagger to become a vessel in which jinn will technically reside or cohabit, and it allows you to communicate with the jinn more effectively, do spells with the dagger effectively, and essentially build up a really powerful way of working with Paimon and his legionnaires. So first you raise the sacred space and you are supposed to chant the name of Allah 66 times. After that you will kind of feel the energy of Allah or the source flowing through you. And after that is done, you are supposed to summon Paimon with the following chant. By the power of Allah and Ad-Dar, I call you the Jinn King Paimon. And you repeat this chant over and over again in a sacred space. You rose because you have to raise the sacred space first, then invoke Allah through the repetition of the name, and then call Paimon with this chant. And the chant is by the power of Allah and the power of Ad-Dar, I call you Paimon. And you repeat this over and over again until energy of Paimon is present. Then what you do is you lay the dagger in front of King Paimon and you proclaim the following call. You proclaim the following request. By the power of Allah, by the power of the Jinni King Paimon, and the power of the 7 Jinni Kings of the 7 planets, I bind Jinn to this dagger. And then you pronounce the following incantation, the following words of power. Artava, Shaitan, Kertasa, Eti, Artava, Nahu, Tai, Itava, Nahu, Eti, Itava, Nahu, Menta, Ure. Let me repeat it once again. So you raise the sacred space. You chant the name of Allah in the sacred space 66 times. Then you start calling Paimon with the following call. By the power of Allah and the power of Ad-Dar, I call you Jinni King Paimon. You repeat this call until Paimon comes. When the Paimon comes, you lay the dagger in front of him and you address him in the following way. By the power of Allah and by the power of Ad-Dar and by the power of the 7 Jinni Kings, I bind one of your soldiers, King Paimon, to this dagger. Then you start pronouncing the following magical incantation. Artava, Shaitan, Mertasu Eti, Artava, Nahu, Tai, Itava, Nahu, Eti, Itava, Nahu, Menta, Ure. And you repeat this call until you feel the dagger pulsating with energy. So you repeat your request to Paimon and you repeat the magical hymn until you feel the dagger pulsating with energy. After you start feeling dagger pulsating, light the sandalwood incense and cut the apple into 7 pieces, a red apple, and lay the 7 pieces of apple onto the dagger, and anoint each of the 7 pieces of apple with your own blood, and then say, I give this incense and this apple and the blood of mine as a payment to King Paimon for giving one of his soldiers to reside within my blade. Let every action of this blade have divine permission. And then ask King Paimon to give you the seal and the name of the spirit bound to the dagger. You will receive the sigil as an image, and you will possibly, if you are developed enough, receive the name of the spirit as well as the function of the spirit and what the spirit is supposed to do. Every time you wish to use the dagger, you lay the sigil of the spirit atop of the dagger, and then you give 7 pieces of apple with a little bit of your blood on each piece to the spirit before you ask it to do anything. So this is essentially how you consecrate the dagger to King Paimon, and how you create this magical relic, this magical weapon for work with King Paimon. Every time you give the payment to Paimon and to his spirit, the power of the offering will grow. The power of the blade will grow. And if you do it long enough, it can come to the point where you can physically see the djinn, and it becomes like an axiom for the power of the djinn and for the power of that current, for the power of that force. The reason why the god names are invoked in this ritual is because essentially the god names are the attributes of the Supreme Godhead, and working with them allows you to technically be more empowered in your rights. Paimon has nothing against you working with the god names or praying, as long as you are working with them as well and behave nicely to them and treat them with respect. Is it allowed in the 3 Abrahamic religions? Is questionable, because it is true that you are calling spirits which are morally neutral or kinda dark, but you are not venerating them. You are treating them as equals, and you are paying them for the work you ask them to do. It's not like you are submitting to them and bowing to them. This specific technology doesn't involve any worship, and actually, if you use the god names to work with them, worshipping them actually weakens the work. If you want to use the god names in the work with the spirits, worshipping them actually weakens the work with them. And you can definitely work with them with the god names without worship. Worship isn't necessary for work with those spirits. You don't have to worship them. You simply have to treat them with respect and with dignity. So at the end of this video, I will kinda put my raising of the sacred space video so that it is all given as one unit for those people who don't know how to raise the sacred space. The following 5 or 10 minutes will teach you how to raise the sacred space, and you do it first before doing anything said in this video. So technically, what you need to understand is this will work, but this is not for beginners. You need to have astral senses developed in order to do this. and you need to feed the jinn every black moon at least. Because if the jinn is not fed, the jinn bound to the dagger, what will essentially happen is you will either make jinn angry and it will start creating problems, or it will leave. Okay. The jinn bound to the dagger is usually used for defense purposes and baneful purposes. So yeah, that is everything I have to say for today. Talk to you soon.
Okay, so today we are going to talk about a really important subject. And that's probably my final variation of raising the sacred space. It's a combination of lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, the god names, and prayer of particular god names. So let me kind of explain the methodology I use, and then I will explain why I do what I do and how I do it. So there is only one thing which you need to have for this ritual, and that is a dagger. It can be ordinary kitchen knife. It doesn't have to be some special blade. And it needs to be cleansed in salt water before every use. So how you do this is you simply put a bowl of water, sprinkle salt into it, and then put a dagger for a few minutes into that salt water. And then you clean the dagger with the cloth in order to purify the energy of the dagger. So after you did that, then you draw a pentagram with the blade in the air in each of the cardinal directions, and you empower each pentagram with appropriating name of God. On the north, you essentially use the name Adonai. On the west, you use name El Shaddai. On the south, you use name El Elyon. And on the east, you use name Sabaoth. So you draw a pentagram in each direction, and then after drawing each pentagram, you vibrate the divine name. Now, the thing is, sometimes one drawing and one vibration isn't enough. You are supposed to draw a pentagram with the air with the blade and vibrate it until you literally feel the energy coming from the pentagram. So sometimes for people who are noobs, it will maybe take a few repetitions to make pentagram vibrating and to animate it with energy. But as soon as you animate pentagram with energy and feel power radiating from it, you are free to go into next direction and do the drawing and animation of pentagram there. After you animated pentagram in all four directions, you are supposed to pronounce and vibrate a particular prayer, which I will show you on the screen, while visualizing the barrier of energy and power radiating around you from the pentagrams you draw. And the goal of that barrier is to technically prevent any of imposter spirits from appearing in your ritual. So yeah. So let's go to the next part of the clip. So now we will go to another part of this, which is the prayer to raise the space, the conjuration to raise the space. This is on purpose designed to be really short because it needs to be short but effective, and it goes like this. by the power of the Lord God Most High, by the power of Adonai, El Shaddai, El Elyon, Elohim, and Sabaoth, I raise the sacred space in this place. Let no harmful impostor spirit appear in this divine rite. You will see the text on the screen, and you are supposed to repeat this text until you literally feel the barrier of energy around you radiating from the 4 pentagrams you draw. Build that barrier really, really strongly, because you need to guarantee that no imposter will come, and the only way to guarantee that is if you release powerful sacred space in your area. So that is how to raise the sacred space. This is a more simplified and more powerful way to do this, using 4 divine God names. And this is really well explained. If you have any questions, you can ask me in the comment sections of this video. Now, the reason why you need this sacred space raising is because it really guarantees that you have no imposters involved. And I need to explain that the God names are divine energies of the source, and they are neutral in nature. They are not dark or light, which means that you can use this raising of the sacred space to work with any spirits, angelic or demonic. It doesn't matter. The only thing this really does is it allows you to call spirits and be sure that what you are communicating is the entity you are trying to contact, and not some parasite trying to leech of your energy. So this is the video for today, guys, and I just want to elaborate. So you draw a pentagram in the air, you empower it by the appropriate God name, which is appropriate for that direction. You empower it until you literally can feel strong energy radiating from the pentagram. Then you go into a next direction, and you do this until you charge all 4 pentagrams in all 4 directions. Then you repeat the mentioned prayer you see on the screen, and focus on energy barrier rising and radiating from 4 pentagrams until you can literally feel that energy radiating here around you, like invisible ball of power, invisible ball of energy. And then you can proceed to call whatever spirit you wish. Drawing a circle around yourself will also help on the piece of white and black or black cloth, depending on what kind of spirit you are trying to call. And you can inscribe the God names mentioned in this video on the edges of the circle as additional form of protection. You can call spirits within the circle you consecrated this way. There is no any negative side effects. I have called all kinds of spirits, including Hecate or Belial or Paimon, and I had no backlash from them. Actually, the presence was much purer because there was no attempt of the parasites to go into the right and mess with it because parasites cannot cross the barrier. So yeah, guys, this is your video for today, and thank you for following me and supporting the channel. If you like the content, you are free to support me on Patreon. Link is in the description of this clip.